For many people, the Southern Railway and the southern region of British Railways are inevitably associated with moving large numbers of commuters each day in and out of the capital. However, there was much more to it than that. In this program, we present a miscellany of films made between the 1930s and the 1960s on the eastern and central divisions of the SR, which, as well as providing some probably unique views of the system taken over a period of some 40 years, will demonstrate just how much interest there was to be found in the railways of the southeast of England in that period. We begin at London Bridge Station in 1930. One of the first of Monsell's brand new schools class 440s, number 908, Westminster, backs onto its train. For a short while after these locomotives were introduced, they ran without smoke deflectors. Still at London Bridge, we have some rare Dufay-colour footage taken in 1938 of 1491, a Wainwright E-Class 440. An E4 Class 062 tank is in the goods yard at Sutton as an L12 440 424 arrives with the Portsmouth train. Later, number 433, another member of the class, designed by Dougal Drummond for the London and South Western Railway and later modified by Ury, is seen at Sutton Station. The third rail is in place for the new electric services. St. Paul's today looks down over a very different London skyline to that of the early 1930s. We are back at London Bridge on a rather murky Saturday, probably in 1931. A former London Brighton South Coast Railway 464 tank, number B327, leaves the station with the 2 o'clock Saturdays only for Brighton. The first part of the film is also a reminder of just how grim conditions could be in the days before the Clean Air Acts in the 1960s. This is New Cross, blanketed in fog. C.J. Bernard, the man who made this film of the Baltic tank between London Bridge and the flyover beyond Norwood Junction, must have spent a lot of time poring over timetables, or else, as we shall see, he was just plain lucky. The electric train bearing the filmmaker soon catches up with that hauled by the Baltic tank. So the steam train catches up when the electric unit stops. What looks like a Brighton E4 062 tank can be seen. The electric has pulled ahead at Norwood Junction, where B327 is seen again. And on the flyover beyond the junction, these lovely shots of the Baltic tank can be seen. Moving on to East Croydon, one of Monsell's N-class moguls, introduced on the Southeastern and Chatham in 1917, passes through the station. Like many Eastern Division mainline trains in the 1930s, the formation includes Pullmans. The Baltic makes another appearance. These superb tank locomotives were rebuilt by Monsell as 460 tender engines in the 1930s. The derailment of one of the River Class 264 tanks at Sevenoaks in 1927 rather prejudiced the Southern against the use of large tank locomotives and express trains. A King Arthur on the Down Southern Belle completes this sequence at East Croydon. We have now gone down the southeastern main line to Sandling Junction near Folkestone. A Schools Class 440 passes through the station on an up express.
Oops. There you go. Alright.
The branch to Hythe and Sandgate, which closed completely in 1951, diverges here. These films were made on 9.5mm stock in the early 1930s. Among the locos seen are an F1 Class 440 on the main line stocking service and an elderly Stirling designed 01 class on the Hythe branch train. A Lord Nelson 460 passes through Sandling Junction with a boat train consisting of a typical southern mixture of Pullmans and ordinary stock. The next part of the programme concentrates in Folkestone, and in particular the branch to Folkestone Harbour. Our films of this line will span a period of nearly 30 years. Another Lord Nelson, this time at Folkestone Junction, where the harbour branch diverges. An R1 class 060 tank drifts down towards the harbour with vans consisting of passengers' luggage. This is shortly followed by the boat train itself, hauled by another R1. In the 1930s, roll-on, roll-off ferries were still a thing of the future. This is how cars for the continent were dealt with at Folkestone Harbour at that time. One of the Southern Railway steamers leaves the pier to begin the Channel crossing to Boulogne in the early 1930s.
No, not actually. Don't want anything.
Shunting at the harbour is one of the former Southeastern Chatham P-Class 060s, number 27. This loco was preserved on withdrawal over 30 years later and can now be seen on the Bluebell Railway in Sussex.
Wait, 1 second. I need that information because I go to the Bluebell Railway.
Shunting at the harbour is one of the former Southeastern Chatham P-Class 060s, number 27.
Oh, okay.
This loco was preserved on withdrawal over 30 years later.
I'll go
and
check
can
that
now
out.
be seen on the Bluebell Railway in Sussex.
Remember it. I'll remember it. Because I'm going there for the Five Scots for
One of Monson's powerful
this year.
Z-Class 080 tanks. was
Cancelled last year.
Also. Though it was only 3/4 of a mile long, double-track Folkestone Harbour branch was one of the most spectacular sections of railway in the whole of the British Isles. The reason for this was simply the branch's ruling gradient of 1 in 30. Both trains had to slog up the hill to the junction, with maybe as many as 5 tank locomotives working the train. In this 1930s scene, there are 2 R1 Class 060 tanks at the front and another pair banking at the rear. The train in this sequence was probably the Golden Arrow. We will come back to this line and indeed this famous train shortly. But before that, following the chronology,
I think I've actually seen one of those.
we have some very rare film made on the Southern in the dark days of 1940. 14-year-old Ray Stevens filmed these scenes near Beckenham Junction in May and June 1940 on his father's 9.5mm home movie camera. But one of Wainwright's C-Class 060s headed a down-through goods train. Schools Class 916, White Gear, heads an up express. On Friday the 31st of May, King Arthur 778 at Pellias pulls a Dunkirk evacuation train through Beckenham Junction.